Morning. Welcome back to the show. You can call this whatever you want to. I'm calling it the news. So, I've got some news for you today. Governor Gavin Newsom orders homeless encampments dismantled. There's some fake support for Kamala Harris from Republicans who also happen to vote for, what's her name? I can't remember what her name was. Nikki Haley. Okay. Former Republicans, I guess. I don't believe they're actually Republicans. And some other news about Kamala Harris. We'll get into that later. But for now, I want to start with Gavin Newsom. Professor says the effort is to politically clear his name of the homeless crisis amid the upcoming election. California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed an executive order directing state officials to begin dismantling thousands of homeless encampments, which have been a flashpoint in cities throughout the Golden State for years. It's so bad over there. They've got feces and used needles just crowding the streets. And I hope you recall when Chairman Mao, Xi Jinping, the Communist Chinese Party leader, whatever, president, I forget what they call him over there, but he came and visited last year, I think, and Biden rushed out there to clear the homeless off the streets in preparation for his arrival. So this is echoing that. It kind of rhymes. California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed an executive order directing state officials to begin dismantling thousands of homeless encampments. Yeah, I read that already. Newsom's action comes a month after the U.S. Supreme Court issued its most significant decision in decades on homelessness. In a 6-3 decision, the court ruled that ordinances barring homeless encampments on public property are not unconstitutional. Lower court rulings had deemed such policies as cruel and unusual punishment under the Eighth Amendment. The Constitution's Eighth Amendment serves many important functions, but it does not authorize federal judges to wrest those rights and responsibilities from the American people and in their place dictate this nation's homelessness policy, Justice Neil Gorsuch said, writing for the majority. The decision reversed 6 years of protections for homeless people in western states, which had previously barred cities from punishing homeless individuals sleeping outside if they had nowhere else to go. No more excuses. We've provided the time, we've provided the funds, now it's time for locals to do their job. Newsom said regarding the order in a post on X. Chris Herring, an assistant professor of sociology at the University of California, Los Angeles, responded to the executive action, stating that Newsom's order aims to politically clear his name of the homeless crisis, especially as he's in the national spotlight right now amid the presidential election. For historical context, in 2013, the city of Grants Pass had up to 600 people experiencing homelessness per night. City officials increased enforcement of ordinances that barred the use of blankets, pillows, and cardboard boxes while sleeping within the city. Violators were subjected to a $295 fine, which increased to $537.60 if unpaid. Wow! They really are putting the boot down on those homeless people. Additionally, upon receiving 2 citations, police could issue an order banning that individual from city property. Anyone who violated that order could be convicted of criminal trespass charges, carrying penalties of up to 30 days in jail and a $1,250 fine. You know what? It's too bad you're a homeless person. You know, we've got these laws now. You're going to have to follow them. And if you don't, we're going to fine you heavily. In 2018, John Logan and Gloria Johnson, who had been homeless in the city, brought a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the city ordinances. A federal court sided with them and prohibited the city from enforcing the ordinances at night and in some cases during the day. The new policy Newsom's executive order will directly impact thousands of people living in tents and makeshift shelters that line California freeways and parks. This executive order directs state agencies to move urgently to address dangerous encampments while supporting and assisting the individuals living in them, and provides guidance for cities and counties to do the same, Newsom said in a statement. Do any of you remember that policy where they handed out free booze to homeless people? I don't know. Hold on. Let me look that up real quick. Let's see. California hands out free booze to homeless. Yep, here it is. Some extra context for the story here. San Francisco slammed for a $5 million a year program to give free alcohol to the homeless. This isn't working. Yeah. They're like, whatever, just get them drunk. That'll smooth things over. Here we go. The state has been hard at work to address the crisis on our streets, he added. There are simply no more excuses. It's time for everyone to do their part. While Newsom cannot force local officials to act, he can apply pressure to clean up the camps by withholding funds for counties and cities. The order directs state agencies and departments to adopt humane and dignified policies to quickly address encampments on state property. Shortly after the order's announcement, it was anticipated that Newsom's policy shift could divide local Democratic leaders within the state. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, who opposed last month's Supreme Court ruling, is not supportive of Newsom's order. Strategies that just move people along from one neighborhood to the next or give citations instead of housing do not work, she said. We thank the governor for his partnership thus far and hope that he will continue collaboration on strategies that work. San Francisco Mayor London Breed said in a statement posted to X that her city is embracing the order and has already begun efforts to clean up encampments. San Francisco is already doing what the governor is calling for, with efforts well underway since long before the grants pass ruling. She wrote, describing that previous statement. We've made significant investments in shelter and housing, and consistent daily outreach continues to offer services and support. This proactive approach has led to a 5-year low in our street tent count. She added that her office expects the Ninth Circuit Court to formally lift the injunction that placed limits on the city's response, allowing San Francisco to implement new policies under the Supreme Court's grants pass ruling. So basically, he's just like, yeah, these homeless people, not good for us. We got to get rid of them. Send them somewhere else. Whatever. Just despicable. So in recent X news, there's a new growing trend of we're lifelong Republicans voting for Kamala Harris. Kamala? I don't know. And over here you see the Trump shooter. Not going to say his name. And I don't believe these people are actually Republicans. Especially not that guy wearing that kind of hat. New trend goes viral of Republicans throwing their support behind VP Kamala Harris and condemning Donald Trump. Some of the men explained how they previously supported Trump but are now on Team Kamala. The new movement is being branded as Haley voters for Harris, where the men explained how far-left VP Kamala Harris is the clear path forward. While the posts are going viral, the amount of people actually making the transition seems to be very small. Yeah, I don't believe this trend for 1 second, and I don't think you do either. So let's
My
listen.
name is Chris. I'm a Reagan Republican who voted for Nikki Haley in the primaries.
And also, I don't believe any Republican who actually cares about conservative values actually voted for Nikki Haley. We've actually seen that the majority of Nikki Haley's voters were just Democrats who quickly registered Republicans so they could vote against Donald Trump.
Backed her all the way, but I cannot get behind or support Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. They're just too extreme for our party and for our country. I think they would take us down a very dangerous road. And so that's why I'm backing Vice President Harris.
Hey, my name's Kyle. I'm a lifelong Republican from Alabama. I voted for Trump twice. I started to move away from Trump towards the end of his presidency, but I still held my nose and voted for him. Since then, he's been nothing but a disaster. Picking J.D. Vance just really solidifies my decision to vote against Trump, to vote for Democrats.
I would be surprised if we found out that some of these people were actually receiving money from the DNC to say these statements.
I voted for Nikki Haley in the primary,
like our good friend Harry Sisson. He's going to be on the front lines if Kamala wins, going to Ukraine.
I'm going to be voting for Kamala Harris. That's the right choice for America in 2024.
I'm Charles Ross. I live in Hillsboro, Oregon. I was and have been a registered Republican my entire adult life. After the 2020 election and how he led a movement and incited people against the very democratic fabric that this country was based on, it ruined the civility and the dignity of the office of president and fundamentally broke down the building blocks that are this nation, and how he absolutely incensed real heroes and real people who have made a difference to show his very narrow and tyrannical opinions and hard authoritarian views. I can't support that, and I think a lot of Americans can't, and they're tired of it. I'm not a Democrat, but I will not vote for Donald Trump. My hope is that a moderate candidate will be elected, and that the Republican Party will rid itself of Donald Trump and return to the civility for which it has always been until Donald Trump took control. And I hope that we can, as a party, move past this. But until that happens, I will not support Donald Trump, and I will not vote for him.
Sorry about that. Another thing I'd like to point out is that it tends to be the case that Republicans and conservatives will not refer to our nation as a democracy. They tend towards referring to it as a constitutional republic, a republic, what have you. Just not a democracy. Maybe they'll say constitutional republic that practices democratically electing its representatives. We have some democratic practices, but we don't vote 1-to-1 on everything. We have representatives that we vote for democratically who then vote on issues where, they represent their constituency. So anyways, some more fake staged stuff going on. Melinda Gates endorses Kamala Harris. She knows what we need in society. She's the ex-wife of Jeffrey Epstein's best friend.
A woman leader who's turning 60 on October 20th is Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. And I know that you had never endorsed a candidate in an election until June.
Right.
When you endorsed President Biden. Yesterday, you endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. Why is this election now? Why is this election now the time that...
I used to like Colbert when I was a teenager. Nowadays, since I've been educated, I don't actually like what he says. He's very crass, and he says a lot of things that are just plain lies.
You decided to make that step.
Yeah. I've always been an independent voter, and I will continue to be. I voted Republican, I voted Democrat. But in this election, women's rights, our reproductive rights are...
Women's rights are reproductive rights.
So fundamental. And there was a candidate that believed in them from the beginning.
They want unlimited access to abortions. That's what it is.
And there was a candidate who didn't and rolled them back. And when you look at issues like paid family medical leave that every other high-income country has, or you look at caregiving,
I agree with paid family medical leave. That's totally reasonable.
I feel like Kamala, I was happy to endorse her. I've worked with her before. She
But that's them marrying the truth to the lie.
knows what we need in society, and she's using her voice against those issues already on the campaign trail. And I knew she would.
Yeah. We got Eden Miles Chong here. Kamala Harris says we must have the courage to reject offensive concepts like radical Islamic terrorism and illegal alien. These are actual terms that refer to actual people. If you're from outside of the country, you're an alien. You're an alien to our country. And then when you cross over the border illegally, breaking the law, that makes you an illegal alien. And then radical Islamic terrorism, that's terrorism that is of the Islamic nature, that is radical. You know, fundamentalist Islam, fundamental Islam instructs its followers to commit these acts. I don't think there's anything wrong with using these labels. Let's listen to the clip.
We must have the courage to object when they use that term. Radical Islamic terrorism.
Radical Islamic terrorism.
Have overwhelmingly been the greatest victims of terror. And we must also have the courage to reject that term illegal alien.
Illegal alien.
I have seen some of the worst of criminal behavior. I have seen the worst of crime. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
You know, I was looking up Kamala Harris's history recently, and it turns out while she was a state prosecutor, she was prosecuting a man. He ended up going on death row. She had evidence that would have proven his innocence, but she withheld it and allowed him to just be executed. And she incarcerated nonviolent offenders that were just smoking weed, marijuana, for much longer than they should have been. And it was for free labor in fighting forest fires and stuff like that. Slave labor is what we'll call it. And we'll go over to Real Mac Report. Just in, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama announced their support for Kamala Harris in the upcoming U.S. presidential election and promised to do everything possible for her victory. I'll also add, Kamala Harris is a historical first. She is the first Democratic presidential nominee to not receive a single vote. Totally bypassing democracy. You know, the people voted for Joe Biden, and the elite said, no, sit down, shut up, we're putting Kamala on and giving her your money that you gave to Joe Biden. Here we go, let's watch this clip.
Kamala!
Hello. Hi.
Hey there!
Aw.
That audio sounds kind of fake.
Hi, you're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Brock, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
She's so full of it. I'll be honest, my first election was in 2008, and I voted for Barack Obama. I was a teenager, and I voted for the emotional choice. And I don't really blame myself back then. He promised to pull us out of the endless foreign wars and all that jazz. But then what does he do when he gets in office? He recommences bombing brown kids in the Middle East. And he actually extrajudicially assassinated a U.S. citizen, Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki. He was a U.S. citizen, teenager. I forgot what state he was from. Don't quote me on that. But it was a civilian cafe in Yemen, a country we were never at war with. And because of some allegations of terrorism against his father, Joe Biden orders a drone strike on the civilian cafe, killing most, if not all, of the people who were there, and Abdul Rahman. Anyways, I didn't vote again until 2020. I didn't vote in 2016 because I didn't like Trump or Hillary. I thought they were both wild cards. Didn't know what to expect. And then after 4 years of Trump, I said, hell, I'm a Republican now. And my reasons were no new wars, the Abraham Accords, peace in the Middle East, and the best numbers of our lives. 2019 was a great year for me. I was able to afford so much more than now. And then COVID happened, and the Democrats locked everything down, forced mom and pop stores and businesses to shut down, while Walmart and Target and Amazon were allowed to remain open, as if they were just immune to the virus with a 99% survival rate. Anyways, Michael Barack, I think they make a good pair. They talk a good talk, but they're generally evil. Let's go on to Roz alerts. This happened 2 days ago. I didn't catch this on time, but I'm gonna insert this in here as a little aside. Breaking: fighter jets scrambled after NORAD detects and intercepts 2 Russian and 2 Chinese strategic bombers in Alaska Air Defense Zone. I really like Roz alerts. I don't think English is his first language, or maybe he's just, whoever runs the account, they get things wrong sometimes, grammar and spelling wise. But according to reports earlier today, on July 24th, 2024, NORAD detected, tracked, and intercepted 2 Russian Tu-95 bombers and 2 PRC H-6 strategic bombers operating in the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone. NORAD fighter jets from both the United States and Canada were dispatched to conduct the intercept. According to military officials, the Russian and PRC aircraft remained within international airspace and did not enter American or Canadian sovereign airspace. This activity by Russian and PRC aircraft in the Alaska ADIZ, Air Defense Intercept Zone, I believe, Identification Zone, my bad, is not considered a direct threat. You know what that is? I believe, and this is just based off of my experience, I believe it's a training drill, and they're preparing. The Russia and China, we know that they're allied with each other. This is probably a joint training drill, is what that is. Yeah, testing the Biden situation, probably. World War III, it's starting because Biden is weak. Breaking, nothing happened. No, I think that's wrong. That is something we should be apprised of. We should be apprised of this. Tit for tat, the U.S. fly bombers along China and Russia very often. I wasn't aware of that. Our enemies know Kamala and Joe are weak as hell. They're testing the response systems. They'll call it an exercise with no intentions. Russian and Chinese bombers in Alaska. Provocative move, testing limits. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see what's happening over here. Kingman Lee. Since bozos are trying to cancel Kai Cenat. Oh, I don't care about that guy. Oh, this was a crazy thing I saw yesterday. This is from Reddit Lies. This is not an active website or article. You have to go into Web Archive to view this, and they have the instructions right here. And this is Emily Goldstein saying, yes, diversity is about getting rid of white people, and that's a good thing. So yes, white supremacists, diversity is indeed white genocide, and white genocide is exactly what the world needs more than anything else. I'm going to go ahead and open this bookmark. Where are you? There you are. We're going to go view it. It's a little bit wordy, but bear with me. One of the more common memes that I've seen white supremacists spread around recently has been diversity is a code word for white genocide. The concept here is that diversity is only promoted in white nations, and that the end goal is to eliminate white people altogether by flooding all white countries with non-white people until there are no white people left. How many times can you say white in one sentence? Well, guess what, white supremacists? That's exactly right. Diversity is about getting rid of white people, and that's a good thing. This is this person's words. I absolutely denounce this. This is racism. First off, I am a white person myself, so allow me to get that out of the way. I'm extremely glad that the white race is dying, and you should be too. White people do not have a right to exist, period. That might sound like a bold statement, but it's entirely true. Any white person with even the faintest knowledge of history should curse themselves every single day for being white. Throughout all of recorded history, whites have engaged in oppression, genocide, colonialism, imperialism, and just plain evil on a massive scale. White people have denied every other race the right to exist, and have at some point in history oppressed every single race on the planet. Absolutely not true. And it's not just white people doing that. It's every country. I mean, not every country, but you know, there was a time before nations when, you know, there was expansion of different, I don't know what you call it, kingdoms, empires, all that stuff. And war was a thing, and they would conquer. Much like Europeans conquered the United States before it was the United States. The Americas, they were calling it. Why then should whites now be allowed to live in peace when whites have historically been the world's #1 source of conflict and oppression? Not true. Not true. Whiteness is racism, period. Whiteness is the source of all oppression in the world. Whiteness is racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and heteropatriarchal capitalism. Eliminate whiteness and you eliminate every single form of oppression that the world currently faces. No white people means no oppression. White people are like a cancer, and oppression is a system of the cancer. Cut out the cancer altogether, with the cancer being white people, and you get rid of all of the oppression which white people cause. I have dedicated my life to fighting racism, and I have determined, based on all available evidence, that the only way to really eliminate racism is to eliminate whiteness. Whiteness is the ocean from which racism flows. Get rid of whiteness, and you get rid of racism. Despite what white supremacists often claim, white people do not have a culture. White culture consists of nothing more than oppression, genocide, and the disenfranchisement of minorities. White culture is racism and nothing more. When white supremacists talk about white culture, what they're really talking about is racism. Over the course of history, white people have built a massive empire based entirely on the hard work of oppressed and disenfranchised minority groups. But guess what, white people? That empire is finally coming to an end now, and its demise is music to my ears. To quote the great anti-racist activist Tim Wise, "Do you hear it? The sound of your empire dying, your nation as you knew it, ending permanently because I do, and the sound of its demise is beautiful." They absolutely hate the Western world. They want to replace it, destroy it, burn it to the ground, and build from the ashes. Something akin to either either a communist one or something a little more Islamic. I don't know. You got to look at the Iranian Revolution in 1979. That was originally going to be a communist revolution, but there was a power vacuum, an influence vacuum, and the Islamists took over. Descendants of Holocaust survivors can personally attest to the evil that white people are capable of when they hold the reins of power. Thankfully, whites won't be holding the reins of power for much longer. When white people die out, so will racism, sexism, queerphobia, and all their forms of oppression. This person is absolutely unhinged. It's like they don't recognize, or they refuse to, they have a selective blindness when it comes to the way Islamic nations treat homosexuals. They literally will take you to the roof of a building and drop you off of it if they find out that you're gay. So yeah, the only way to eliminate racism, white privilege, and white supremacy is to eliminate whiteness altogether. When I teach my students about human rights, oh man, she's a teacher. Critical race theory and the role of whites in worldwide oppression, my white students often ask me how they can atone for the evils of whiteness and how they can make up for centuries of white oppression, and I tell them you could do that by not having any children and ensuring that the white race does not live to oppress anyone ever again in the future. Thankfully, white birth rates are indeed very low, while the birth rates of minorities are much, much higher. Within our lifetimes, whites will be a minority in a significant number of formerly white countries, including the US, the UK, France, Germany, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, to name just a few. To white supremacists yearning for the days when whites could rape and pillage the world with impunity, this is incredibly frightening. To people on the right side of history, however, this looks like progress. Progress! Whites are finally getting their just desserts, and it's about time. I sincerely hope that when the white power structure finally comes crashing down, whites will receive no mercy from the minority groups that whites have spent centuries oppressing. We certainly don't deserve any mercy or kindness, as we have given nothing of the sort to others. Whites should also know that when they do become a minority in formerly white countries, they will not be receiving affirmative action or any of the other benefits meant to assist the minorities that whites have historically oppressed. Why? Because whites don't deserve those benefits. It's as simple as that. One can look to South Africa, where whites are only I'm gonna keep doing more of the where whites are only about 8.4% of the population, but blacks continue to receive affirmative action because blacks in South Africa have historically been disenfranchised by whites. The same thing will happen when whites become a minority in North America, Europe, and Oceania, because whites have historically oppressed minorities in all three of those continents. Not to mention, why should whites receive any kind of benefits when the ultimate goal is to get rid of whites altogether? Finally, laws against hate speech will serve to prevent whites from complaining about this, as any white person who complains will be arrested, given a long prison sentence, and made an example of for the rest of the remaining white population. Speech that attempts to justify the white power structure and perpetuate white oppression of minorities is not freedom of speech, and it has absolutely no place in modern society. I just want to say this person is crazy, racist, and you kind of have to label it self-hating racism, but it's also xenophobia. Like this person is just kooky. Anyways, that's all I got for you now. Let me know if you have any notes for me. If you think I could be doing something better. I really value the feedback. So anyways, I hope you don't have a bad day. And see you later. Ciao.